So Skillup actually ended up being right about the Joker. He predicted they could backtrack on giving the character for free after its original flop. I don't think they backtracked. I think this was always the plan, because again, like, the only way they were ever going to make money with this was if people bought paid cosmetics or paid the $10 to get them ahead of time. So I don't think they backtracked. I think this was always the plan. And it's one of those things when you look at the whole context of everything, it makes a lot more sense now that we can see they offered it for free, but you could purchase it, because it always seemed a little too good to be true to be like, yeah, all of this is available just totally for free for everybody. We're just gonna sell you like paid cosmetics and emotes and stuff. It always seemed too good to be true. And then we see that, oh, they just bloated out the they bloated out the actual gameplay to the point where it's ridiculous. And I mean, look at this. Hold on, let me pull it up. This is the subreddit right now. And the subreddit, there's been some negativity in it. You know, people have been frustrated by it, but they've completely flipped on it. Yesterday, there was a bit of excitement. People were trying to like find ways to get excited for the update. It's flipped completely right now. Like, there is no tolerance right now for what they've done. No excuses. This is just terrible. Shitty launch of a shitty season. I know a lot of us are mad, especially those who held out hope it could improve. But some of you still make excuses for Warner Brothers and say, well, it's a live service. What did you expect? Helldivers 2 has been out about as long and has since added new weapons and gear that completely changed the flow of gameplay, not just mutators on the same 3 guns. They've added new enemies and mission types with a bunch of new planets and planetary hazards to keep it fresh. On top of that, there are 3 battle passes that can be worked on at the moment. That is how you do live service. This shit that Warner Brother gave us is a joke and insulting. It's all thematic though. It's the Joker season. It's meant to be a joke. It's part of it. It's not a bug, it's a feature. Man, this is just baffling. So they showed us season 1 content prior to the launch of the game. What happened? Nothing's been worked on. Still various glitches and bugs to be found. There isn't even a clear way to start the new content. Middling though it is, and essentially locking Joker behind a paywall or a tedious grind. What happened? This is just sad. I really enjoyed the main story of this game. I thought the characters were fun and had fun banter. I thought the gameplay was fun, and it still is, but there's just no point in coming back, it seems. Instead of a nice chunk of content where we get the Joker early and have him to be central to a little blurb of story, he's just not present at all through the recycled missions with no charm. What happened? What happened to the company that used to care about this IP so much that the last time they made a DC game, it was of such a high level of quality that it outclasses modern releases despite releasing in 2015? How does the company fall off so hard? It's a very good question. Very good question. I seriously think Suicide Squad Season 1 is a cut and run situation with Rocksteady. Seriously, they showed cutscenes of Season 1 before the game even shipped, and those are seemingly all we get out of this season, Part 1 and Part 2. They said 6 weeks from launch, we would be the Joker launch and release only a part of it by the end of March, pretty much 8 weeks instead, and claim it will be 6 more weeks until Part 2. I swear they also said new mission types and then revised that in the first post-launch update once they saw the game flopping. The impression you got before the game shipped was that this was work in progress, near final footage of the stuff they would work on and release as the game grew. But the impression that I now have now, is that they saw the launch and probably bailed. Cut and run. Rocksteady wants us to grind the same missions, get bored of them all over again, just for the privilege of experiencing the main reason people came back, the Joker, and continuing grinding those same missions you just got bored of again. Yeah, no thanks. I really wanted to enjoy this game, but they make it so difficult. It's not worth it. It's pathetic. Good luck retaining players. And I mean, you can even see people that like were self-described champions of the game that were really rooting for it, were trying to defend it, and there's just nothing. It's been real, y'all. I'm out. They've also lost like 200, 300 members on the subreddit since yesterday. When I was filming yesterday, it was at like 28.3, I think is what it was at. And now they've dropped to 28. So people are actually bailing, which is crazy. You're telling me there's no story? The new missions are basically the same stuff we've seen before, and I need to grind 35 of those missions before I can unlock the new character through a recycled boss fight, and then there's nothing to do with that character? This endgame is effed in so many ways. I can't believe it. Holy shit, it's already tedious, and I'm just level 15. Update, I'm level 25 now. It gets worse and worse. Second update, I did it. I unlocked the Joker. The boss fight was good, the cutscene as well. Shame that's it. There's no reason to play anymore other than to level up the Joker. New equipment doesn't look interesting to me. It's just... This is the, like, The age-old story with games is that usually if it stinks, it's because it's rotten. People like over the last year or two have sent me like messages. I had another YouTuber even message me and ask me if I had like contacts that were leaking information about like Starfield to know that that wasn't gonna be good when it came out. I was like, no, I don't have contacts directly within Bethesda telling me, okay, the game I'm working on actually sucks. It's just stinky. You look at it, you can tell things don't make sense about it. And if you think for 2 seconds, you can put together that this doesn't work. This isn't going to work. It's not going to be fun. There's all of these problems that nobody's talking about. So let's call them out. It's really not rocket science. It's quite easy to do. But I think there's just this like sickness in the games industry where there's a real lack of critical thought with a lot of people, where they just hear a marketing campaign push certain talking points and they just believe it. Hook, line, and sinker. You see it with Xbox fanboys. You see it with PlayStation fanboys. You see it with fanboys of individual live service games like this. And it's just toxic and it ruins people's enjoyment of those games. It ruins their appreciation for good games. It just kind of destroys everything. Everything just rots. This could have been avoided. There was a lot of red flags surrounding this, but unfortunately a lot of people just didn't want to see the red flags, I suppose. One of the things I mentioned in the video that just went up this morning, though, that I feel like I should mention here, because we mentioned it on stream yesterday, but basically there are items in the shop that are available currently at 50% off. So it's like an emote bundle that's like 4 emotes of the Joker. It has him like, you know, posing, doing finger guns, stuff like that. And this bundle they say is worth, I think it was $17 in in-game currency is what they're charging for it. But on launch day, it happens to be 50% off. You can get it for $8.50 worth of credits. Wow, what a deal, right? The problem is like, this immediately reminded everybody that was watching the stream and myself of something that happened with Fallout 76. If you remember Fallout 76, they had a problem where they had issues in the in-game shop around Christmas after the game launched, where basically they would have items that were launched at a 50% off discount. So they had items where they're like, oh, see, it's actually worth $24, which is how this converted out, which is crazy that you would pay $24 for that, but still. They're like $24 for all the emotes, but we're gonna offer it on sale, 50% off for $1,200. And the particularly tricky thing with this was that they were Christmas emotes. So they weren't expected to be selling these a month later. You know, in January, you're not gonna be selling and buying Christmas emotes. So this whole thing was built where they were going to say it was worth 24, pretend like they put it on sale so you think that you're getting a deal on it. When it was never actually $24, it was always $12, but they tried to make it look like you were getting a deal. That's not legal in most countries that have clearly stated like regulations around advertising. Most first world countries don't let you do this. It's crazy. And Suicide Squad is doing it right now. Like they launched microtransactions on day one at like 50% off sales, trying to trick you into thinking you're getting a good deal on it when that's just what it costs, you know? So yeah, no, that's a deal. So there's just a lot of things about it which are just reek, and all told, it's just soulless. It's really pathetic.
Seth donated £5 through Super Chat. I usually buy things from companies and even I refuse to purchase the Joker. Man, Warner Bros. Really took the Killing Joke a bit too literally.
Yeah, I'm just stunned because they've basically done maybe a couple of updates since the game launched 2 months ago, right? Just a couple little bitty updates here and there. And they just like 2 days ago fixed matchmaking so you could play with other people, okay? Thank you, Amari, for subbing with Prime. So they just handled this stuff. They just handled it. And so everybody was like, okay, well, it's because they've got their heads down. They're in the trenches working on the season 1 update. And they've seen the response. Everybody's common concern, frustration is that enemy variety, combat, encounter variety, mission variety, all of that is super lackluster, super lame. We got to shake it up, got to do something different. And so everybody's like, okay, well, they know what they need to do. and they're working hard, allegedly. So when we get season 1, it's probably going to have new missions, new mission types, maybe even some different enemies that they plan to bring in. And everybody was like, maybe this is all part of the grand plan. Like maybe this was like a Helldivers thing where they launched the game and they had a ton of content that they were sitting on for post-launch release, like with the mechs or with the flying bugs that they've just introduced, or the new planets and stuff in Helldivers. But no, that was everything they had. There's nothing. It peaked at 3,000 and now it's, let's see, 1,600. So we'll see. I mean, it's still pretty early. It's still pretty early in the day. We'll give it a few more hours. Maybe
Ivan Milanov donated 10 Bulgarian levs through Super Chat for the 1,000th hour of entertainment. Smiley face.
Smiley face indeed, my friend. I mean, this is crazy. This is great. And I mean, again, the most direct comparison you can probably make is another live service game that launched right around the same time. And they needless to say, are not having the same issue. I mean, 268,000, the 24-hour peak. You know, it's just very, very different stories. Very different stories. But it's because they had content, they had variety, they had fun. And I think it also was pitched in a different way. Like, unfortunately for Rocksteady, and I don't know if this falls on them, I don't know who's to blame for it, but the marketing for Suicide Squad was all over the place. Where initially they were like, see, it's a live service game and it's a looter shooter, right? Everybody's happy about that. Everybody hated that. And so then they flip it and they're like, okay, actually it's story based and we have a lot of story, the most cutscenes per minute that we've ever, or by minute, that we've ever had in a game. And so they pivoted off of what they initially said to try and reframe it as a narrative game. And when people got their hands on it, they're like, there's barely any story here. This is not a narrative game. So the live service people were disappointed. The story people were disappointed. And then it just is a bad game. And so they just didn't have enough content to justify the price tag. And then the seasonal update, they have one interesting thing, which is the Joker, and they lock it behind hours and hours of grind. And after all of that, if you grind to the Joker, you get the Joker, a cutscene plays, and then you can use the Joker to keep grinding the same missions for whatever reason. Like, it's just wild. It's just crazy. But I mean, I think it's pretty clear this is not going to save the game. I was hopeful. I was like, maybe it is in fact the case that they have a trick up their sleeve. Maybe they've been doing all of this because they have tons of content in season 1 that they're going to drop, and it's going to blow the game up and be amazing. But it's wild. It's just corporate greed. Yeah, I mean, at this point, the question is like, okay, so the game was a disaster. Where does the blame lie? And the thing is, I know it's easy for us to just go, Warner Brothers forced them to do this. Warner Brothers did this and that. But as far as we've seen, Rocksteady wanted to do a live service game. Like they asked for this. They were working on a live service game after Arkham Knight, or after technically they did the Arkham VR thing. And then they got offered this IP. So they started working on that for 7 years. And this is the product they put forward. Like, if anything, I would assume that Warner Brothers probably gave them way more time, way bigger budget than they probably should have had for this game. And I mean, really, no matter which way you look at it, I don't see how you can blame anybody other than the guys like Sefton, who left, by the way. He bailed ship before the game launched. So greenlit this project, was here for all of the foundational decisions, all of the big decisions of what the game was going to be, how it was going to work. And then he leaves his own studio to go found a different studio where he's at now. Like, I don't see how you can blame anybody else except for these guys that headed all of it up. Like, I just don't know how you can blame anybody but the leadership. Who says that it isn't Warner Brothers who pushed live service? I mean, it is possible technically that in like 2016, after they finished the Arkham VR game, Warner Brothers said, you guys are doing live service now and you're going to like it. But correct me if I'm wrong. I think the reporting from Jason Schreier said that Rocksteady is the one that pitched their live service game that they had started working on. Like, that was their idea. It was their project. So I take it Suicide Squad is not a buy. $35 on the Xbox store now. The thing is, like, you have to understand that it's There's probably about 10 hours of gameplay through the campaign, made up of about 2.5 hours of content. Everything else is just repeated. The season 1 update, if you don't want to pay for the Joker, you have to grind for another 5 to 10 hours, assuming it doesn't bug out for you like it bugged for me. So if you know what you're getting into, at least you're making an informed decision. But I'd say at 35 bucks even, this game is not worth it yet. It just really isn't. It's so damn repetitive because you're basically paying 35 bucks for 2.5 hours of content. This game has cost them hundreds of millions. It's amazing, right? It's stunning. It boggles the mind. I'm genuinely just at a loss for words for this game, because it seems like at every possible step, every opportunity that they had to do this properly, they screwed it up. It honestly takes talent. It's quite shocking when you think about it. Helldivers 2 cost around 2 million and they've had over 8 million sales. I cannot wait for the like big breakdown from Jason Schreier explaining what the hell happened, because so much of this is just baffling. Like there have to be stories explaining what happened, because no part of this makes sense. All of it is just amazingly confusing. We need a documentary. Unironically, like if there were a documentary, I would watch the crap out of that. I don't give a crap about the Hideo Kojima documentary, but I'll watch this. I'll watch this all day, every day. I think it could be possible if the game keeps getting worse, they could just drop all the seasons they've developed on hand and forget the game. My stance has been that I just don't know how Warner Brothers could justify continuing to cut checks and pay for the studio's operations when they know that the future seasons are just going to hemorrhage more and more money. Like, if they peaked at 3,000 players yesterday on Steam, they didn't even recover more than a fifth of their player base from launch for like the big season 1 update. And now the whole community is imploding. Everybody's livid at what they've done. And like, do you really think that Killer Frost is going to generate anywhere near the same level of excitement or interest? Luke, do you think Rocksteady is still a top studio? Would you say it's on the same level of Insomniac? No, not even close. I mean, it seems like everybody that was really instrumental to like Arkham Knight and Arkham City a decade ago, those people have all left. So it's been reworked and reformed into a live service studio, a bad one at that. So the only thing it seems to share in common with Rocksteady of 2015 is the name and the building. Other than that, it seems like nothing else is the same. Yeah, unironically, I think I would watch the doc. He took my thing.